While most people have the daily struggle and challenge of balancing budgets in the face of mortgages, piling debt, and the rising cost of living, many people live their lives as if they could afford it. There's nothing wrong with wanting a life of luxury, but if your bank account doesn't reflect that lavish life you lead, you might need to take a moment to look into your expenditures. In this video, we're going to take a look at 10 things poor people waste money on. Before we jump to it, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for all of our newest videos. Financial wisdom is a key asset for success most people don't consider looking into. A sudden increase in income may lead to lifestyle inflation, where an increase in spending becomes a self-made habitual trap, especially when the influx of increased income is only temporary. Being able to recognize these traps may allow you to gain a better understanding of your spending and better foothold towards financial stability. Number 10. Disorganization. One of the biggest challenges the impoverished face is disorganization. The lack of internal systems that guide daily tasks can be an impediment to one's success. Although there may be more pressing matters and priorities for the poor, such as doing work to place food on the table for the day and securing funds for the days to come, the utter disregard for taking the time and developing organizational skills may add more problems than desired. Being organized may even cost you money on more basic scenarios, such as losing items like chargers and cables, mobile phones, misplacing wallets and watches, and even expensive items such as jewelry and accessories. Aside from the actual loss of these items, the added stress is an unwanted diversion from the struggles of daily life. Something as simple as losing a key to your house can be as damaging as it is problematic, having to spend money on a locksmith before even realizing where you left the key all along. Contemplate on all the instances where this example applies, and you can realize just how much money you've wasted through the years just by being sloppy. Number 9. Making more than one trip to the grocery store per week. Most people in a usual household take one major trip to the market to stock on supplies. This is a sure way to stretch one's budget allocation by organizing each trip according to the supplies you'll need. However, there are those who take little trips throughout the week, which oftentimes become more costly, not only from the actual trip itself, but because chances are you'll end up getting more than the items you intended to get. This particular routine of having more than one trip to the grocery store means that you don't follow a proper tracking system of your consumption and neglect plotting the stuff that you need to buy. Number 8. Lucky Charms. Practice many people do when they're penniless is hoping for quick solutions to finding better luck with finances. Maybe it's a desperation or false hope, but oftentimes many resort to spending their saved money on wasteful items that offer no solution at all. Items like Lucky Charms, magic crystals, prosperity candles, and such may offer a vision of wealth, but in fact are nothing but material items that end up adding to your expenses. It may provide a certain sense of well-being, especially when you have great faith towards items that offer the allure of hope, but one can never rely on useless things, especially without putting in the work to accomplish goals. It's okay to place your faith in something that you believe in, but you also need to be smart about the purchases you make and where you place your faith. Number 7. Gambling. Another common practice for poor people is spending on additional false hopes through gambling in order to win a quick buck. Whether it's side street gambling or gambling in a casino, spending on lottery tickets, poor people spend exponentially more money on small items like these on a more regular basis than you might expect. In fact, countless people hurry towards the lottery line, especially when the winning pot is extraordinarily huge. Sure, the idea of you being that one person to win it all can cause the hordes of people to count on the unreliable, with everyone dreaming of winning big each time a bet is placed. However, plenty of people fail to realize that the cost of these daily bets end up becoming quite huge in the end. Number 6. Food waste. Most people don't realize the amount of food that ends up being thrown at the end of each day, thinking that consumption is usually an efficient process. However, studies suggest that the average person throws away 40% of the vegetables, 17% of their dairy products, and 14% of the meat that most people purchase. In fact, the average household in America wastes upwards of $20,000 per year on food. This also reflects on the poor and middle classes, with figures amounting to roughly the same amount, which is a painful reality that should be a wake-up call towards a more efficient system within the household to avoid a waste of food that is also a waste of your money. Number 5. Online shopping and impulse purchases. How often does it take for you to fall into a rabbit hole of consumerism after seeing one single ad while browsing your social media? For many of us, it can get rather tricky, especially since one item usually leads you to another. Many of these online stores oftentimes try to keep you engaged by recommending one item you might like, one after another. And when purchasing items online, always try to get ground rules for yourself. Through focus and discipline, you can forego any unwanted purchases from sudden impulse buying. It's easy to add to cart, but when you see the purchase button, take a breath, review the items you've bookmarked, and see what you truly need instead of the items that your fingers chose for you. Number 4, health neglect. Many of us only think of going to the doctor when we start feeling symptoms for something. Thinking that most likely will never happen to you is a misconception, and as something will always happen to one's body, that may cause a level of concern. Oftentimes, disregarding the simple habit of regular checkups to the dentist or the doctor may lead to dire consequences at greater cost. One's health should always be a priority to each individual, and as such, health and hygiene habits should never be disregarded. Taking proper care of yourself in general signifies your attitude towards appreciating your life, so make the smart choice. And if you weigh the potential medical bills against the practice of maintaining a good bill of health, then you'll realize what adjustments you need to make in the present instead of regretting it in the future. Number 3, latest tech. Today's consumer society, based on fads and trends, particularly in the realm of tech and gadgetry, can be a self-induced loop that one cannot get out of. The disregard of function over form has become an annual offering of new and newer items that simply never ends. People end up spending ridiculous amounts on buying the latest tech, even when they still have perfectly functioning gadgets at home. Whether it's the latest phone or the newest flat-screen TV, people tend to spend their much-needed cash on these items instead of the necessary things they actually need, such as house maintenance, having insurance, or investing in the future. This may be due to social pressure or simply consumeristic influence. Many people tend to save up for the items that they want instead of what they need, even when they're going broke after the purchase is made. If this is the case, it is time to wise up and get out from this loop. Number 2, drinking and smoking. Habitual addictions are often some of the most costly items a poor person spends on. The temporary fix from a drag of a cigarette or the regular to occasional drinking session with friends may end up being an unwanted expense that you need to break away from, especially if you don't have the money to sustain such habits. With most countries and governments placing hefty excise taxes on items that are particularly harmful, these sin taxes can get really expensive, especially as it increases as time goes by. Consider a pack of cigarettes and just how fast you go through it, and then consider the cost of your habit per month or per year, and you'll realize just how much you're spending on such a filthy habit. If the possible savings you might get from these purchases don't encourage you to quit, how about considering the health complications that you might receive in the long run? Just think about it. Number 1, credit cards. If there's one thing a person without funds must not have, it is a credit card. And although most people purchase using debit or credit cards, it is a tool that can be more damaging, especially if you are poor. The lack of control and disregard of actual funds may provide more problems than the convenience these tools give. Credit cards in particular can give you a temporary sense of financial stability, despite the lack of actual money to back up your purchases. The moment you find yourself in debt, you have no other choice but to push yourself harder to pay that debt. Otherwise, it'll be problems piled over more problems if you choose not to settle your accounts. The lack of sensibility over finances is something you do not want to have, which having credit easily allows, especially if you actually have no money to spare. What do you think about these 10 things that poor people waste money on? We'd love to hear from you by placing your comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more stories.